So hello everyone and welcome back to the annual Deercast Bullet and Calibre survey. As per last year, on this survey we are going to run through the results from our Instagram poll that we ran a few weeks ago, where we asked all of you which calibre you use, which bullet you use in that preferred calibre, why you use that bullet and calibre choice, and then finally whether it is lead free or not. Now this year, because this is the second year of running the survey, we're actually able to compare it to the data from last year, which actually reveals some quite interesting trends. So the first question we asked was, which calibre do you use? Now the results of this are pretty interesting, especially when you compare them to last year. So last year the most popular calibre that received 25% of the votes was the 243. But if you look at the results this year, that has quite notably decreased in terms of the number of you using the 243. And this year it only accounted for 19% of the votes. It has been overtaken by both the 6.5 Creedmoor and the 308. The 308 receiving 25% of the votes and the 6.5 Creedmoor 24% of the votes. So you can see there's been quite a noticeable switch. And obviously we didn't ask the reason necessarily why people have changed from one calibre to another, but I can imagine the murmurings of everyone having to go lead free have probably got something to do with that potentially. The other thing we would say is obviously we don't necessarily know that exactly the same cohort of people who voted last year have voted this year, so there could be a little bit of a difference in terms of the type of people that have voted this year compared to last year. We've included the sort of top 10 calibres there for everyone's interest, and again you can see the blue bar representing last year's votes and the green bar representing this year's votes, and there was definitely a change in terms of a few sort of newer calibres coming onto the list. I don't necessarily mean new to the market, but calibres that people didn't vote for last year but that have made it onto the list this year. So take the 300 Win Mag and the 7mm 08, which last year no one voted for, but this year they received a healthy number of the votes. The sort of traditional calibres, like the 270, we had a few fewer people voting this year compared to last year, and the same for the 6.5 by 55, but all of the PRC cartridges, so the 6.5 PRC comes in there in the top 10, but the 7 and the 6 PRC also do now feature, they just didn't quite make it into the top 10. So the second question we asked was, which bullet are you all using? And we asked within that for you to specify the manufacturer and then also the model. So if you were using a Hornady bullet, for example, please name it was Hornady, but then also let's say the CX or the ELDX, for example. And here are the results. So as per on the previous graph, the blue bar represents 2024 and the green bar represents 2025. You can see the most popular bullet in 2025 with the Seiko Powerhead blade with 17% of the results. It wasn't the most popular last year, and it's definitely the one that has seen the biggest swing in terms of sort of positive take-up of that bullet. The Hornady CX was the most popular bullet last year, and it remains in at number 2 with very little change compared to 2024. Seiko Gamehead, pretty consistent year on year. Hornady ELDX has got a few more users, and then the Fox Classic Hunter has a few fewer users than compared to last year. Where we saw the biggest change is the Barnes TTSX, that had quite a loyal following last year, but considerably fewer users this year, and we might come on to the potential reason for that later. Hornady SST, quite considerably fewer users, and again that might be being driven by the change of bullets that we're all being encouraged to use in terms of going lead free. Hornady ELDM still hanging on in there, and then a sort of newcomer to the block was the Virtus Precision bullets that featured last year but only with sort of 1% of the votes, but edging up to almost 5% of the votes this year. And then the Sierra Game King, again a slight downward trajectory compared to last year. Now the third question we asked was, why are you using both the calibre but also the bullets that you're using? And it was a slightly awkwardly posed question, and we had to do a little bit of not massaging of the results, but sort of slotting people's answers into certain categories. So if when you're looking at these results you say you can't see the answer you gave necessarily listed there, it's probably because we put it into a certain category, because a lot of people will answer the same question with a similar answer, but in a very, very slightly different way. What we've tried to do is group those answers as closely as possible. What we're going to show you on the screen in a second are the most popular answers, so not necessarily all of the answers, and here they are. So last year we found that the most popular reason for people using the bullet they were using was that for whatever reason it was the best all-rounder, so it did all of the jobs that they wanted it to do. This year that has quite noticeably changed, and actually the main reason people are choosing the bullet that they are using is because of availability. And I think that is certainly something that if you look on all of the forums, and certainly from our experiences, getting hold of, even if you're reloading, the components or bullets that you want to has certainly become much trickier over the last 12 months. And so that has really kind of borne through in the results. And availability is now the predominant reason why people are choosing the bullets that they are using, and that took 21% of the votes. Last year, very, very strong reason for choosing the bullet that people were choosing was the terminal performance, and that remains so at number 2. The same with accuracy, that is the third top picked answer. And then the fourth top picked answer, a bit of a tongue tweezer, is reliability, so how reliable each time that bullet is used it tends to be. Lead-free actually seems to be a little bit less of a predominant reason for people choosing the bullets they're using, but that may well be because more and more bullets happen to be lead-free anyway. And then the sort of final answer that ranked in the top category was cost, which again there's been almost a doubling of the reason why people are choosing the bullet they are doing so, purely driven by cost. So some really, really interesting answers there, and I think some of those go a long way to explain why people are using the bullets they're using. So when we look back on the results from the bullet answer section of the survey, some of those bullets that have declined in popularity I think has been either because of the cost that they are or just the sheer availability of them. I know the Barnes bullets, for example, at one stage were very, very difficult to get here in the UK. We were certainly struggling for a while, and I imagine that is possibly one of the reasons why they have declined in popularity, potentially amongst other things. So the final bit of the survey, which we didn't actually ask this question, we just gleaned it from the results we were given, was how many of you are using lead-free ammunition compared to non-lead-free ammunition. Now, last year there were 51% of people using lead-based ammunition and 49% using non-lead. This year that has completely swung the other direction, with 41% still using lead ammunition in their rifles and 59% using a non-lead alternative. So I think the result from that part goes a long way to explain some of the answers to the second question in terms of which bullet were people using, because more and more people seem to be favouring those lead-free bullets, but that could be purely due to availability. So there you have it, folks. Those are the results from the 2025 Deercast bullet survey. As I said, if your particular bullet or calibre or rationale wasn't featured, then don't panic. It may just be that it just didn't quite feature in the sort of top 10 or top 5 results. What we didn't want to do, following some feedback from last year's survey, was put a graph up on the screen that showed so many different calibres that actually it took so long for you to decipher the results from it. So actually, in terms of calibre, we just slimmed that down to the top 10, for example, and bullets, we've just slimmed that down to the kind of top picks. I think in total there was something like 40 different bullets being used, so there's quite a large range. If any of you are really, really interested in the further results, then pop a comment in the section below and we can reply to it to let you know exactly where a particular calibre or bullet came out in the overall rankings. But anyway, thank you very much for those of you that took part in the survey. Thank you for those of you that are watching this video. As per usual, remember to comment, like and subscribe, and we'll catch you on the next one.